Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're talking about heaven, specifically Jannah, the Islamic heaven. So guys, as we all know, this life ain't it. The analogy I like to use about this life on earth is just like a baby is developing in its mother's womb, its physical body. Our time on earth, we are developing our soul, our spiritual body. And we go through our trials and tribulations and get closer to God through these times. And at the end of it, inshallah, Lord willing, we earn our way to heaven. Because death is not the end. Death is actually the birth of our spirit. Because when we're born, that's the birth of our physical body, our physical life. When we die, it's the birth of our developed soul. And depending how we did during this life, you either go to or you go to heaven. So let's say you did fantastic during this life, you were a good person, you make it to heaven, inshallah, Lord willing. What happens next? But before we get to that, what exactly is heaven? Heaven is defined as the eternal paradise of the afterlife. And in Islam, there is 7 levels to heaven, with each level being more prestigious, more luxurious, and more pleasurable than the last. All right, and 7th heaven, the highest heaven, is reserved for prophets, martyrs, just rulers. So these are kings, presidents that treated their people fairly, because look at the world we live in, right? Yeah, and also the most righteous of people. So these are people that follow all the rules, pray all the time, have active faith, repent, and overall are just the most perfect of believers. That's reserved for 7th heaven. Now the distance between each heaven is like the distance between here and the stars. That's how massive these realms are. All right, so let's say you get the great news and you find out you're going to heaven. So what can you expect once you arrive in heaven? Well, in heaven, there's no more death, there's no more sickness, there's no more hunger, there's no more pain, just pleasure. There's no more body odor, so this means you're gonna be smelling amazing all the time. There's gonna be no more sweat. There's gonna be no more excrements, so no 1s and 2s. So toilets are gonna be completely obsolete in heaven. You're not gonna need it. There's gonna be no hunger or thirst. So obviously you're gonna still be eating and drinking water, juices, all that stuff, but it's gonna be purely for pleasure use, okay? You're not gonna need to eat to keep your body alive anymore. It's just gonna be just for flavor. If you wanna, indulge in fish, steak, chocolate. Oh, by the way, in heaven, there's no weight gain. So you could literally eat for days on end of just cake and not gain a single pound. In heaven, you're gonna be forever young. Every single person in heaven is gonna be 33 years old forever. All right, and on top of that, you're gonna be looking fresh to death. Well, death's not gonna exist anymore, but you're gonna be looking your best at all times forever. All right, so none of this looking tired, looking drowsy, looking tired, right? Looking just disheveled, that's not gonna exist. On top of looking tired, you're never gonna get tired in heaven. You're always gonna have energy, because in heaven, you don't need to sleep. There's no need for it. And for the ladies out there, no more periods. That's not gonna exist in heaven. So what's the weather gonna be like in heaven? Well, the heaven's gonna be perfect temperature. So not too hot, not too cold, sort of like a summer breeze type of weather. There's gonna be no sun, there's gonna be no moon, no nighttime, just a constant eternal light. And the light, it's gonna have sort of like a sunrise type of color, like, moments before the sunrise, and the sky is sort of like an orangey, purple, violet color. That's gonna be the color of the sky eternally. And what is the light source, you might be asking? The light source is gonna be God's throne. There's one major distinguishing feature of heaven that is unique to heaven. That is the 4 rivers that flow underneath the gardens. These rivers are made out of crisp wine, pure white milk, crystal blue waters, and flowing honey. This is mentioned in the Quran multiple times. Just imagine seeing that in person, seeing a river made out of flowing honey or pure white milk that never expires, by the way. It's just fresh milk that you can just drink. Absolutely wild stuff. These rivers actually, they have names. Okay, so the names are River of Ithar, Salsabil, Kafur, and Tasnim. These are the 4 rivers that flow underneath the gardens. Judaism also speaks of these 4 rivers. So this is something that's not just unique to Islam, it also extends all the way back to Judaism. In heaven, negative emotions will not exist because so we have to remember that here on earth, the reason why we get sad, mad, jealous, envy, all that stuff is demonic influence, okay? Because what are we as humans? What is our true essence? It's made out of light, okay? It's a divine spark straight from God. This divine spark is not capable of hate. It's not capable of getting angry, of jealousy, all that stuff. That is demons literally manipulating our emotions to drive us to sin, okay? So in heaven, these demons obviously do not exist. So we'll be free of any negativity. It's literally gonna be impossible to get angry. Okay, so just imagine what that's gonna be like. In terms of the air in heaven, the air is gonna have a slight fragrance of sweet perfume. It's not gonna be too strong, but you're gonna slightly smell it and it's gonna smell so good. Heaven's gonna smell amazing. Also, everyone is gonna be super tall in heaven. Everyone's gonna be over 50 feet tall in heaven. So let's say you have bougie taste. In heaven, everything is ultra luxurious. Okay, so everything is covered in gold, sapphires, rubies, pearls, you name it, you're gonna be blinged out in heaven. On top of the jewelries, the crowns, the thrones that you're gonna be sitting on when you arrive in heaven, every single person that comes to heaven is gonna receive a palace. All right, and I'm not talking like a big mansion, I'm talking about palaces like Buckingham Palace sort of deal. And these palaces are gonna be made out of gold and silver bricks. They're gonna have gravel that's made out of rubies and pearls. And then the soil is gonna be made out of saffron. So on top of all that, this palace is custom built for you because no one knows you better than God. He's been with you your entire life. So let's say, for example, you enjoy working out. You're gonna have a custom built gym just for you, all right, with gold barbells, dumbbells, all that stuff. Or you enjoy cooking. Your kitchen's gonna be massive. You're gonna have a massive gold island with gold knives, utensils, all that stuff, where you can cook whatever you want, right? So things of that nature. The ceilings are gonna be 100 feet tall, which you're kind of gonna need because you're gonna be over 50 feet tall anyways. When it comes to the palaces, the mansions, they're all gonna have rivers flowing through them. So it's gonna kind of look like Venice, Italy. If you've ever been to Venice or you've seen footage, it's canals that flow through all the buildings. So absolutely stunning, very beautiful. In terms of the threads, your clothes, everyone is gonna be decked out in silk clothing, which if you know anything about fashion, silk is actually the finest fabric in the world. A shirt it cost you $250. And it's super durable, it's super comfortable, super breathable, all that stuff. So yeah, looking pretty good, man. Another super interesting fact of heaven is that in heaven, you're gonna get to experience things that you always wanted to, but you never got a chance to during your lifetime on earth. So for example, let's say there's a woman that during her lifetime on earth, she always wanted to have kids, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to. In heaven, she's gonna be able to have kids, right? Or let's say there's a man that during his lifetime, unfortunately, he never found love. He never got married, never had kids, any of that stuff. In heaven, gonna be able to find a wife, have kids, get married, all that stuff, right? Let's say another person always wanted to travel. They always wanted to go to, Thailand. They always wanted to go to South Africa, Egypt, but they couldn't afford to travel. In heaven, they can travel wherever they want to go. This is something that's super exciting for all of us, really, because life is short. How many of us actually get to do everything that we want to do in life? Very few of us. Maybe 1% of us. Something to look forward to. Another super cool thing about heaven is that you're gonna finally get to meet your angels that had been with you since the day you were born. And the thing is, even though it's gonna be your first time meeting, you're gonna feel like you're gonna be seeing an old friend that you knew your whole life. And you're gonna just talk about your life, essentially, because they were there the entire time. They're gonna talk about your life, and they're also gonna tell you about all the times they saved your life, which in all reality was probably a few hundred times. So that's super cool that you're gonna finally get to meet your angels. And just to elaborate a little bit further, you're also gonna get to meet the archangels. You're gonna meet the big boys. You know, you're gonna meet Gabriel, you're gonna meet Michael, Raphael, Uriel, all those angels. And yeah, just any topic you want, you could talk to with the archangels. After all, you do have eternity. The thing about heaven, so some of you might be thinking, all right, but what if I miss my old life? You're not going to, okay? You're gonna still remember your old life, of course, but it's gonna seem like a distant memory that you acknowledge, but doesn't compare to the present moment. It'll seem as if your entire lifetime was one day of your life, and that it was a time period of growth, kind of like maybe you look back into now in middle school. Middle school compared to where you are now, it's a completely different space and time. It doesn't compare to where you are now. So how exactly is time gonna work in heaven? Well, in heaven, time obviously is not like here. Time is not linear. In heaven, you're in eternity. Okay, what does that mean? So eternity means it's time that repeats itself over and over and over again. And all you have is the present moment, quite literally. Okay, this explains why you're not aging. You're at 33 forever. Another example of how eternity works is, let's say, for example, you're walking through a garden in heaven, and you see a tree, a pear tree, we'll say, and you grab a fruit because the pear looks luscious, delicious, and very juicy, right? You grab it, you eat it. Immediately right after you grab it, another pear grows to take its place, right? Or let's say you're at a restaurant, you eat this delicious steak, and it's so good, you want a second steak. You don't want to wait. Who wants to wait, right? So you ask the angel for a second steak, shows up right in front of you. You didn't wait a single second, right? So this is how time works in heaven. This is how eternity works. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You know, a whole lot of research goes into these videos. At the end of the day, I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to awaken people to the spiritual reality. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your support. The Two Sides of Eternity tour. All right, guys, so there's this cool hadith that I wanted to share with you guys. And it's a story about how God, when he created heaven and hell, he sent Gabriel to kind of do a little tour of heaven and hell. And he wanted to sort of get like a feedback from Gabriel about these places. So the way it goes is that God created heaven, God created hell, and then he sent Gabriel to heaven first. So Gabriel went there, and he was blown by the sheer beauty and luxury of heaven, and told God, when people find out how amazing this place is, everyone will go to Jannah. God then sent Gabriel to see what it would take to enter heaven. So Gabriel saw all the hardships, all the tribulations, all the obstacles that we have to go through in order to pass this life and make it to heaven. And he told God, he was like, oh my Lord, I fear that no one will enter Jannah. So then Gabriel went ahead and toured hell, Jahannam, and he was shocked. He was terrified by the sights, by the smells, and he told God, my Lord, once man hears of this place, they will do everything they can to avoid it. So then God showed him all the desires and the temptations and the ease of the life that man has to fight off in life to avoid it. And then Gabriel saw this. He saw all the temptations, all the lusts, all that stuff. And then he came back to God and he told him, oh my Lord, now I fear that no one will be able to avoid hell. I also heard this beautiful analogy of what the pathway to heaven is like. So you got to think of the pathway to heaven like walking on a rough trail in a forest with the entrance covered in thorns and mosquitoes. But by the end of it, you walk into a luscious paradise. Crystal blue waters, just paradise overall. And then the pathway to hell is like walking on a clear, comfortable trail with beautiful flowers and sights, initially only to lead to a thorny, dark destination full of dangerous beasts. So you guys, ultimately, if you want to make it to heaven, you have to suffer now, i.e. go through tribulations, deprive yourself of your fleshly desires during this short life. So at the end of it, you can be in pleasure forever. So obviously heaven is pretty cool. But how exactly do we get there? Well, we have to refrain from sinning best we can. We have to have an active faith with God. So pray as often as you can, as consistent as you can. You have to, if you do sin, repent, do good deeds, be truthful, don't lie. Don't lie to other people, don't lie to God, and helping the needy. Okay, so this is helping homeless people, this is giving to charities, zakat, all that stuff. So that's a fairly good blueprint of how to make it to heaven. So when you pass away, obviously you cannot take your material things with you. Can't take your money, can't take your cars, your houses, any of that stuff. But the things you do take, there's three things you do take. There's your memories. You're gonna take with your relationship with God. You're gonna take your good deeds. Okay? Because you have to think of your good deeds as your ticket to heaven. Okay? The more good deeds you have, the more credits you have towards making it to heaven. Okay? And the more credits you have, first of all, you have to get into heaven, and then if you have a lot of credits, you're gonna move up to the higher heavens. So if you have enough credits, you're gonna make it to the 7th heaven, inshallah, Lord willing, and you're gonna be bumping shoulders with Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Moses, right? How cool would that be? Yeah, do good deeds as often as you can, guys. While you're on earth, you gotta take advantage of the time. A situation arises and you have the option of helping someone, go ahead and help them, because at the end of the day, you're helping yourself. So who else is going to be making it to heaven? So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that some jinns are going to be making it to heaven. So yeah, some demons will have the chance to make it to heaven. The righteous ones, the pious ones, the ones that are refraining from sinning and also worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because guys, you have to remember, a lot of you guys are going to be hearing this and be like, what the heck are you talking about, Carlos? Demons are going to be making it to heaven? Well, yeah, because demons aren't inherently evil, all of them. They are neutral, just like us. There are bad humans, there are humans in the middle, and then there are righteous humans. Same thing with demons. Demons, all they are is souls without bodies. They are the people made out of smokeless fire. What does that mean? They're made out of energy. Okay, guys? So some of them worship God. Some of them are really good jinns, really good demons, really good energy people. So yeah, some of them are going to be making it to heaven. Of course, we're not going to interact with them because they're going to be invisible. But since they are pious and they are righteous, they're not going to mess with us. They're not going to give us evil thoughts. They're not going to do whatever demons do here on earth. When it comes to Jannah, heaven, guys, you're going to be surprised by who you see in heaven. You're going to be surprised by the people that you've encountered throughout your life that made it to heaven. So there's going to be people that were criminals that you remember, that were bad people per se, that made it to heaven. And there's going to be some people that didn't make it to heaven that you thought for sure would have made it to heaven. Okay? You know, because people, they change their lives all the time. People go from sinner to righteous all the time. You hear all these stories about people going to prison and then they have some sort of divine revelation. All of a sudden they change their ways. And vice versa, you see some righteous people when they're young, something happens and then they turn around. Or they have this illusion that they're righteous. Behind closed doors, it's a different story. Right? And they're hypocrites. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions this in the Quran so many times. Talks about Muslims being hypocrites, talks about Christians and Jews being hypocrites. This is something that's just in man's nature. When a man is fleshly, he's of the flesh, he doesn't want to be righteous. He wants to keep sinning and then tell people he's righteous, so people are going to view him a certain way behind closed doors. All kinds of sins. People might not know, but God knows. Yeah, like I said, you're gonna see a whole lot of people you weren't expecting to see there. So at the end of the day, guys, it's a beautiful thing, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the most merciful. He's the most patient. You know, there's so many people, bad people out there, will say, deceived people. It's a more appropriate term, that we see out here that are really messing up. But God, He is so patient. He gives people so many chances to turn it around. And a lot of times, these people do turn it around. Inshallah, Lord willing. So, yeah, very beautiful, guys. Very beautiful. All right, guys, so let's talk about who's not going to be in heaven. All right, so this might be a little bit of a shock to you, but Satan, Iblis, as he's mentioned in the Quran, he and his devils, his evil demons, are constantly trying to get back into heaven. But in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the stars are used as missiles to keep the devils and Satan out of heaven. These are also known as shooting stars. Little fun fact for you guys. All right, guys, so now we're going to go over a few holy scriptures from both the Bible and the Quran talking about heaven. All right, so Quran chapter 32 verse 18. No soul knows what joy of the eyes is kept hidden from them as a reward for their good works. This verse speaks for itself. Revelation chapter 21 verse 18 through 21. The city was of pure gold, pure like transparent glass. The foundations of the city walls were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The street of the city was pure gold. So just imagine, guys, a city made out of pure gold, where even the streets where, you know, you're walking over, cars are driving by, if there are cars in heaven, are made out of pure gold. This is what's waiting for you in heaven. Are you excited? Because I'm sure excited, that's for sure. Now there's one more scripture that I want to share to finish the video. This is from the Quran. So be patient, for certainly the promise of Allah is certainly true. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Take care. Peace.